Welcome once again to Arctic Fire. This unique gathering of swordsmiths explores the outer edge of the craft, where craftsmanship, artistry, storytelling, history, and myth combine. This year, the group has recreated objects found in the legendary hoard of Grendel, from the most ancient surviving poem in Old English, Beowulf. 4 days of live broadcast, in which legends will be reborn. Arctic Fire 2016, Grendel's Hoard.
I would like to, in the beginning, say hello to my two friends, Jeff Pringle and Jim Austin. I'm wearing the t-shirt from Oakland Saxon and Exin as homage to you. Hello. I would like to talk about a Pressblech technique, which is an ornamentation technique. It's not really useful for construction stuff, but it's a very cool technique how to ornament your pieces, either historical or historical inspired, or you can use the technique for your own artistic endeavors. So I would like to inspire you to try that. First thing I would like to mention is mass production in the context of Dark Ages or early medieval period, because we automatically think about the period as a period of individual making just one piece, and if there is some trait of mass production, it's more like making stuff more automatically. But there were actually some examples of mass producing in smaller scale, so I would like to touch on that. One of the most typical and overlooked examples of mass production in early medieval period is minting coins. It's a production of item that's valuable, but it's made from a set of dies and it's repeatedly made. Another one is that there probably was some kind of mass production casting in early medieval period, because we know that, for example, sword shapes, like sword scabbard shapes, are found on various places in Europe, ranging from Iceland to Russia, and from Norway to Poland, and it's the same thing. It's actually the same sword shape. So there was range of items that was acceptable, and it was acceptable to mass produce. And one of those techniques that were used for mass production in early medieval sense of the word, so don't picture thousands of pieces, but more than one, is the technique of Pressblech. And it has some really great advantages. And the first one is, of course, repeatability. So you can repeat your design with much less effort than making it from the scratch again. It's really great that my presentation comes after Jake's presentation, because Pressblech in that period is really strongly related to casting, because if you would look at the photograph, sometimes you wouldn't be able to tell if the object is Pressbleched or is it cast. Sometimes you are not able to tell if it's a tool for Pressblech or actual Pressblech. And it ties with material saving. You are actually producing something that looks like a three-dimensional object that's made from very thin sheet or foil of material. So if you are using precious metals like silver or gold, you can save serious amount of resources and produce the item you desire for. If you are using bronze, brass, or copper, you are saving material in the sense of weight. So, for example, if you want to decorate your helmet, you can use substantially more sound material for the whole thing constructionally, and you just apply very thin amount of decoration on it, and you don't really go up with the weight. So that's a really good thing to have. Another thing, which is really the last two bullets, are that the thing is really easy to do, and it somehow removes the production from the skilled work. So what I mean by that the real skill is on the beginning in the making of the die, and it's artistic skill and technical skill. You have to be able to make the die well, but actually producing the object, the Pressblech, is very simple. So the really skilled craftsman does not have to do it. It can be passed down in a workshop to someone who is not that skilled or is just learning. It's really, in a sense, really ornamental technique, and it doesn't, just because you are using so thin material, it doesn't have any structural soundness to it. So constructing a piece out of Pressblech things wouldn't make any sense. In that case, you would like to use either casting or chasing or repoussé. But if you are just applying it on surface, it's just great technique. I would like to walk you through some historical examples, and because we are swordsmiths primarily, and we are concerned with the heroic period, I would focus on militaria where the Pressblech was used. So this is helmet from Valzierde, grave 7. It's I think break of the 6th to 7th century, and it's covered with bronze Pressblechs, and they are attached to the piece with a mesh of stripes of brass or bronze riveted to the surface. I think that the comb, or I don't know how to call the piece on the top of the helmet, is produced by repoussé, but the panels are actually Pressblech. Here's the detail of what you will see how to do from another helmet from Valzierde grave 8, and it's you can see it's a nicely executed Salon style 2 ornamentation. And if we were discussing, there's a possibility that these pieces might have been underlaid with some kind of resin, so the damage to the foil is not that there's not such a danger to be damaged, but we don't know. I don't know.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Do you know if, like, on the Wolf-Riordanus helmets, the guys who are making reconstructions of these helmets and actually wearing them around?
So the military context, yeah.
Yeah. Are they using some kind of resin inside of them?
I don't. I think that it's very good question. We probably can ask them. Yeah. I think that I was talking with some members if they have any evidence for some resin backing, and I think they did not have. But it doesn't mean it wasn't there, and it doesn't mean it did not surface later. So this is actually a die, the form to form a Pressblech. I think it was found in Torslunda, and it depicts two ritual dancers. One is probably Odin related because he is wearing ornate headdress with birds, probably ravens, and he also dances with two spears. And other one is may have been a Wolf-Riordanus, a wolf warrior, or it depicts some mythological motif from Norse mythology. Here's another one. I think it's from the same find, And you can see, as mentioned in Beowulf, actually, there are boars on those crests, on those helmets. And you can see that the warrior in the front is actually holding a spatha with a ring on it here. And they both have spears with some kind of ornamental rivet washers, something like my wolf spear was. Another one is, we have some, fortunately, we have some finds of actual tools. This is the third one. This one is Pressblech die from UK, and it's quite ornamentally related to Sutton Hoo find. You can see that the button here is very similar to the button on the great buckle from Sutton Hoo in its style. This is another one. They have eagles on their helmets, and you can see they have ring spatas and spears with ornamented rivets. This one is older. It's Salient Style 1. It's from Britain. It may be a drinking horn mount, and it's made from bronze and it's cast. Here's another way how to use Pressblech in military context, which is a sword scabbard from Gutenstein in Germany. And you can see our old friend from the first Pressblech, wolf warrior, holding a spear and spatha. He also has a sax at his belt. And his sword also has a ring on it, and it has a sword bead, so it's like a archetypal warrior of that time period. Here's the actual Pressblech of on the drinking horn. So it's something that might have been made using a very similar tool as was the one of the previous one. This is one from the tableau, and it's strikingly similar to the ornamentation of on the giant hill. And also on the Gotland find, so that's something that needs to be said, that it's all interconnected. There were probably some garnets or glass beads in those bezels in the central panels. This is the thing that I think shows the relationship with casting, because from looking on that piece, you won't be able to say if it's cast or Pressblech, because it would look just the same. I assume it's Pressblech, because I think it's somehow inlaid into the rim around, but I may be wrong, and wouldn't surprise me if I'm wrong with this. And there is another version of Pressblechs, and this is Bractates. One of I reconstructed two of those from the Turesholt find. This one is from Denmark, from Funen, and you can see there is a wolf and bird of prey and leader beast. How would you leader head? And some runes around and stamping. Another one shows Tyr having his hand eaten by a wolf Fenrir, which is a very cool one, and he has a powerlifting weight in his other hand, so you know it's a warrior god. Here's another one with the horse with ceremonial headdress, swastika, and the Alu inscription above the horse head.
And the inscription is backwards.
The inscription is backwards, which means, as I will follow, that it was probably readable on the die. And Pressblechs do not live only in early medieval period, they continue to be used in later context. So this one is from 13th century, from Germany, and it's just the same thing. There's a theory there was some kind of coin, I don't know, but it's made with the same technique. And I would like to touch also on using the Pressblech technique as a foundation for another jewelry techniques. So this one is this is a treasure from Hiddensee from Germany. But when we talk about Hiddensee in context of Germany, we have to think about it as a Danish influence area in Middle Ages. So this is Viking, and it's done in gold, and the foundation of every of those pendants is made by Pressblech technique, and then there is applied filigree and granulation on the surface. So it's not just Pressblech, but it's used. And in the small inlet, there is a actual find of Pressblech or jewelry dye to press the sheath from.
How thick is it? A thicker Pressblech if they're using granulation on it and stuff?
I think that you can use it thicker because you don't want so much detail. The problem is not the force, the problem is the detail, because you have to be able to get the sheet metal into the crevices of the design, and there is not much of it. So I think, yeah, probably. But I don't have like measurements and stuff. That would be my gut feeling. And that's my last slide. I will now try to explain some stuff on the whiteboard and then move to the practical demonstration. So we have two kinds of Pressblech basically. One is represented by those bracteates, and it uses dye of the matrix type. It means that you are creating a negative or mirrored impression, because the surface of a finished object is facing down to the die. So when they carve the runes in this die and carve them normally, they would be mirrored in the impression. And the other type, which is used for as it looks from finds, for more 3D-dimensional stuff, is the positive Pressblech, and this will be very closely mirrored with the metal over it. So we have finished pieces, and we have those tools, but we don't have any super secure idea how it was produced. And there are some clever people who are still using Pressblech, and what they and I will describe the fundamental problem with the whiteboard. So you have let's say this being a die, and this is the sheet metal, and you have to apply force in such manner that it doesn't do just this, like if you would just press it, but it closely follows the thing. And there was a theory that it's done with like a wooden or bone needle, that you press the sheet metal inside those crevices, but it wouldn't have the advantage of really mass producing the piece. So a clever craftsman came with the idea that you are using very soft material to press the sheet metal on the design. I will now touch a bit about the materials you can use for Pressblech. So obviously for the bracteates there was gold. It's a great material because it doesn't work harden, it's very soft, and it flows well into the design crevices and lines. You can use bronze, and it's such a broad technical term that it doesn't really say, it's like wrought iron if you say bronze, because it really depends on alloy how does it work harden and how does it polish. And so bronze as an archaeological term does not really mean something from the technical point of view, so you have to experiment with the kind of bronze or brass, because that will be probably included under the bronze. In archaeological literature, so you need to experiment with what's the best alloy for you, and then you can possibly use copper, which I think is the least likely historically, but it's also the thing I will be using here. The reason is that the gold would be the best, the pure silver would be the second best, and then would be probably copper and then sterling silver and then bronze. So I wanted to have a affordable alternative that's really nice to work with. Regarding the thickness of the material you want to use, I read from in archaeological literature that it's from 0.1 millimeter thick to 0.4 millimeter. So it's really non-substantial thing. It's really just ornamentation. And those who know me know that I don't really bother with measuring stuff. So I roll it on my rolling mill until it works. So I use just enough. And that will be tested. And actually, the problem with my rolling mill is that I'm not able to roll it so thin that I like how it works. So I have to fold it and roll it in twice thickness. So it's really thin. I think that it's like paper thin or something. You need to anneal the piece, and then you can start to work with it. So I will try to do that. It was very short and just a little dramatic. So I will start with the one which I find easier to work with, and this is this one, and it's just because of the shape. Because if you, with the first blow of the hammer, lock the sheet metal on it, you don't really have the problem of turning it a bit and having like a secondary impression. This would be just as fine as far as the motive is, or the positivity or negativity of image, but the roundness of it is a problem. If you misplace the blow and you just turn it around a bit, you end up with marred design. So what you do is that you take a piece of lead that's now around 3 millimeters thick, and place it over the die and hit it with the hammer. And you have the impression of the die. You definitely have to count with some portion of dulling, or the design not being as sharp as the carving on your die, because there's still that 0.3 millimeters overlay of the design, so you won't count with that when you are designing your die, and possibly try it. Like there are two stages of how you try your die. First is just making impression in lead. That's very quick, and you know how it works artistically because it's still like inverted. And the second one is that you have to try it using the material you will be using, because your lines may be not wide enough, so material will flow in there, because still there is this is the problem, that if you are, for example, if you are doing, can we have a close-up of this hand? There are those grace lines in this hand, and they are like quite thin, and if you really want to make them thin, you have to adjust the material you use because they are like this thin, and then the material must be, it must be possible to fold the material inside the line, and if it's not possible, you are not able to get a good impression. So you have to work material and the tool as you always have to do. You can see that I have my material is not really flat, but as it's very thin, when I actually annihilate, it doesn't really matter. I may try, I think it's quite soft.
Do the dyes have a tendency to dull over time?
I actually made several items using antler dyes for Pressblech, and it was like five before it shattered. But I did not find those be like super like prone to damage. But I suspect that it's not like forever. You can possibly make them from steel and harden them, but I heard someone talking about the benefits of making them from bronze from the point of view of ball bearings, that the material moves better on the surface on bronze than on steel. That's like, you don't know what I mean. I don't know the word for this. Yeah, it's friction. So because it moves around, so it might be better on bronze, but it's just a theory. I'm annihilating it twice because when I try to straighten it a bit, and it's still work hardening, and because this is round, I want to have it that soft, so I will annihilate twice. And now my real impression is the other side of the thing that was facing the die, and here it is. I would like to assume one question, so I don't have to answer it afterwards. You don't have to really always recast your light for doing it. You can just fold it and use it as a layered material. I saw craftsmen doing it like that. It looked like a lead book. So it was a really lot of those little leaves. So you can use it as a layered material. It doesn't really make any difference. So I think that's all I have for this presentation. Unless you have any questions, I may answer.
We've got a question from Justin Mercier. Can you hear me all right? Is that coming through? So, Justin Mercier says, would Pressblech have been the method used to produce the reflective foil used under the garnet inlay in Anglo-Saxon works? Or was that produced another way? I was assumed it was pressed foil, but I haven't looked into it.
I think that it would be the same thing, yeah. I wouldn't necessarily call it Pressblech because the design is not the primary thing on this. It's just a mesh of reflecting lines, but technically it's, I think, definitely Pressblech. Or it's stamped, because it really depends if you are forming material three-dimensionally, or you are making impression in the material and moving it to sides. I don't know. It's not. It was not like subject of my interest still, but yeah, it's interesting. I think that it will be possible to do it this way.
On the foil thing, I think since they're quite small pieces of thin gold that are inserted down into these cells, it seems reasonable that rather than having a shaper and foil and then lead and then a hammer, that you simply place thin foil over lead and use a punch.
Yeah.
Punch
That will be
but
just.
so
this.
it's a kind of
Yeah. It just the
design.
thing where from which direction is the force applied, and I will also assume that they would probably make a bigger sheet and cut it according to cells.
Justin also wants to know if is that just water you're quenching the copper into, or is it also some sort of pickle to blow the oxide off when you anneal the copper?
I wouldn't like to touch the pickle afterwards or rinse it. So I think what I would do is I would apply the Pressblech and then I would pickle it. So it's just the water.
Can you talk about making the dyes themselves? And how you're
that's
doing that?
that's an interesting thing. I didn't have really time to because I don't cast in my workshop, so I didn't have really time to outsource the casting. So I carved them with rotary tool, and then because I wanted them to be quite pretty, I put them in strong acid to eat the surface somehow smooth and then engraved over it. So that's my way how I sometimes mimic casting. And the other thing is that you are more concerned of the quality of your dye with this type of Pressblech, because this is really in contact with your actual surface of the finished piece. But this one is in contact with the back side, so it doesn't have to be so perfect.
Could you talk about something about the application of them? Say, both for like on a horn or a decoration on a scabbard or even on a helmet. When you produce the blech, but then you need to apply it on a three-dimensional surface. You touched upon the possibility of using cutter's pitch or something like that. But I would like to hear what you could say about the sort of the design of the actual pattern and how that affects its ability to adjust to a three-dimensional surface.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
I have some experience with that, and my approach to this problem was that I wouldn't worry about it and just wing it, and it worked. So my experience is that you would expect that if you are using a foil that's you are trying to curve it around some surface, it would have a tendency to break at points. But if you apply it the force sensibly, you are able to curve it. I did like a 7.5 long Pressblech that was formed into the ring around the spear. So it's possible. It takes quite extreme curvature without really cracking or something. You have to annihilate. And I also made a drinking horn, and in that case, I really wanted to place it in the frame of those bands, and then shape it around the horn, and it somehow managed to keep them quite workable.
I would imagine that if you have a very three-dimensional pattern or decoration, that it would resist three-dimensional shaping more if it has a very deep form. But maybe
I think that you can see that's a good note, because you can see them applied on the helmet, and that's about it, like three-dimensional wise. Because other stuff if you see them on the shield bosses, they are flat and set in some flat fittings, or they are curved just like in one dimension. So yeah, I think that the helmet as a bowl of some 30 centimeters, what's the thing? Diameter, not radius, is probably around where you are able to just to shape them and possibly hide some folds underneath those bands. But I wouldn't assume that it's really possible to do it like on over the shield boss or something. You will have to cut them much smaller in sections. Yeah.
I do think that maybe one of the really good reasons that we see this in so many of those helmets, it now occurs to me, is because it is so reproducible. So if there is damage to the surface of the helmet where the Pressblech is, it's gonna be like so easy to just like bang another plate out and replace it.
We'll sell you not only the helmet, but the die.
Yeah, I think
If
that
your helmet gets damaged in the course of battle, we can replace the Pressblech.
I think that you would just buy the helmet and 27 spare Pressblech,
Yeah,
so you can exchange them. Yeah, possibly it might be the reason. But I also think that the reason is what I spoke about, that the decoration does not really take any weight, and also that it's a way how to distribute like magnificently and rich looking gear without like ruining yourself financially. So, and it's very often combined with other technique. Did you have a question, Owen?
I did. Do you think that the Grendel's arm motif would be the perfect thing for you to put on a drinking hall for me?
I think so. Yeah, I do think so.
Yes. All right, is that it?
I don't know.
Oh, there's more questions. Wait, Nick has a question.
Wysochansky.
Nick? Wait.
Wysochansky.
Wysochansky. Do we know how they would have been produced historically?
That.
The dice or the Pressblechs? I will try to answer. The dice would be cast, like very likely cast, because they are, as I was saying, very similar in look to any other cast objects like brooches and stuff. And Pressblechs, I would say this is like super great idea, and I assume it's the way how they did it. But I don't know it. It's my feeling.